Hello, everyone. Thanks for participating in our presentation today. A big thanks to the New York Grant Company for asking me to be part of their business education series. And what New York Grant Company does really is in line with what we do at SMA, which is mostly focusing on what I call outside-in immigration, so helping people with ideas, investment capital, or existing businesses to launch operations here as a platform for whatever dream they have here to do business in the US. A comparison between the two visas. So as you can see, if you just look at the yeses and the nos, and then the problems that could arise, the E2 is, in our estimation, always the better option. Some people ask, well, there's a myth that exists that if you're on E2 that you can't qualify for a green card. The caveat is that if you have worked for the foreign entity before coming to the US and you use E2 to come to the US, you will always be able to qualify under what's called the EB1 multinational executive green card track. And so if you have an option potentially for 5 years instead of 1 year for the first one, it makes sense. Or if you're an individual, and we always bring in tax experts into our bigger master classes or presentations, if your intent is not to become a green card holder, maybe for tax reasons or for sentimental reasons, E2 is great because there's unlimited renewals. We have a client that's been on E2 for more than a decade and will continue to renew. The last thing, and this is not on our list here and not on the chart, is that in practice, the Trump administration is cracking down on L1 petitions through immigration service, whereas E2 petitions are generally processed directly at the US embassies and consulates, and so there is less analysis, there's less of a political angle in terms of denying the politics of the embassies is to foment the relationships between the two countries. And so I think that if you present a strong E2 case, you have a much better chance of getting an approval, which of course is always what we're shooting for. So let's talk about some common mistakes. So one of them is the tax minimization. If you have 16 BVs and Cayman Island Corps and lots of different companies in the mix in terms of ownership, it can send a signal that you're not going to be paying a lot of taxes. You really have to put up the full funds for the first year of operating costs. You don't want to send funds back to the foreign parent company if there is one until all the petitions are not only submitted, but approved. You need the physical office space. If you need to downsize after you get an approval, you can do that, but you don't want to do it before you apply. You want to make sure that you're careful when you're sending your foreign employees without work visas to make sure that they are not perceived to be working, because that can essentially lead to the blacklisting of your company. And then the last thing is, if you really are planning on extending your visas or applying for other ones, it's of extreme importance to make sure that you're hiring American or green card holder employees, and preferably full-time. Last few comments, I've said these things already, but E2 is almost always the best option if you can pass the nationality test. E2 is also the only option if it's a brand new startup and there's no foreign entities, because as it says below, L1 has really become a multinational business model and fits organizations that are well established with lots of revenue. Lastly, it's important to take time to make sure all these preliminary steps are taken. You don't want to apply for a visa until you're completely ready.